Hi, welcome to How to Have a Wedding as Individual as You Are, the podcast. Based on my book of the same name, this podcast is here to help you have the wedding of your dreams and not the wedding that other people are putting pressure on you to have. I'm Ross, I'm a wedding photographer passionate about embracing diversity and equality in the wedding industry, and each week I'm going to be talking to different experts to help you plan the wedding of your dreams. So regardless of who you're marrying, where you're marrying and how old you're going to be when you get married, sit back, relax and find out how to have a wedding as individual as you are. Hello everyone, welcome to Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of How to Have a Wedding as Individual as You Are, the podcast. We are joined by my fabulous Celebrant friend Karen Phillips today. We're talking what do celebrants do? Yeah. And how can they help you create a truly unique wedding? We're also going to be talking about traditions, where they stem from, and we're going to help you to decide which ones to stick to and which ones you can happily and easily get rid of if they don't resonate with you. So welcome, Karen. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your history and what you do.
Okay, thanks, Ross. Lovely to be here today, and I've had my tea and my cake, so I'm raring
You've
to go.
had your bribe.
Yeah, I've had my bribe. So I'm what's called an independent celebrant, and I work with my husband, Alan, and we are Phillips Celebrants. And basically, we create ceremonies for different important events in your life.
Okay.
And I call it entrances, exits, and couplings.
Very nice.
Commonly known as baby naming, funerals, and weddings. Wow. And of course, today I'm going to talk all about weddings.
Yes. We can touch on the other things that you do, because sometimes there is a little bit of crossover. But if your wedding if people report back that your wedding felt like a funeral, you've done something wrong down the line, haven't you, really? So we'll keep it nice and light-hearted, I think.
Having said that, I'm aware of a funeral director who got married earlier this year, and her whole theme was funerals. She even turned up to her wedding in a hearse in a black wedding dress. Oh, so how cool is that?
Yeah, that is cool. That is thinking outside of the box, which we do encourage. So Definitely. There are no limits. So that is pretty much the theme of today. There are no limits, and we're just going to explore that in more detail, really. So throughout today's discussion, we're going to identify some of the legal requirements of a wedding and distinguish between these and norms and traditions, because I think a lot of people think that some of the traditions in a wedding are legally required or things you have to do. Yeah. So that's going to be a really interesting chat to start things off. We're going to look at the role of a celebrant and how they differ from registrars and vicars, etc., because that's a common question that a lot of people seem to ask as well. And we're going to find out where some wedding traditions stem from and introduce you to some traditions from other cultures and periods of time that you may not be aware of, and help you to identify which traditions resonate with you. And I know that Karen likes highlighting things that I don't know, so I'm sure she's got lots of information. She's going to say, did you know this? And I'm going to say no, and you're going to hear me say no quite a lot this episode, I'm sure, but we're all going to learn a lot. So I'm going to ask you some industry specific questions to start with, as I do with everyone.
It all sounds very exciting, Ross. I do hope you have the information for me to read.
I know. I was going to say, we're really hyping this one up, aren't we? So,
we are.
Touch wood, we're going to live up to expectations here. Okay.
We might have to resort to doing it as a quiz and people ring in with the answer.
Hold on a minute. We're not quite at that level yet, but maybe for series 2, we'll do a live phone in or something.
That'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be actually. Okay. Back to business.
Yeah.
So how long have you been a celebrant, and what made you make the switch from your other job? Tell everyone what your other job was as well.
Okay. My previous career was as an HR professional, and I worked in policing.
Okay.
2 years ago this month, I retired after 26 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It doesn't feel like being retired though, because I seem to work more now than I did when I was working full time. But hey, such is my thing in life. I was really fortunate that I was in a position to do that. And I wanted to do something different, but I really wanted to keep my brain ticking over. And I had an opportunity to go into celebrancy. It was a bit of a coincidence. My husband really wanted to become a funeral celebrant, which he has.
Okay.
And he sort of badgered me to go on the course. And I was a bit like, oh, yeah, okay. You know, as we do as wives, yeah. And when I got there, I'm doing the course and I'm loving it. And I thought, bloody hell, I've got all the skills for this. I can do this. And at the end of your course, you have to deliver what's called a eulogy, which is a tribute, whatever you'd like to call it. And I did mine, and everybody really loved it.
Ah.
And I'm like,
You're
wow,
a natural.
I can do it. So that's how I got into it, really. It was a bit of a mistake, but a really good, positive mistake.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, and life's funny like that. It can't just you don't know where it's going to take you, and then you end up where you're meant to be. So brilliant. And it's led you to sit here opposite me today. So you obviously, what more could you want?
Exactly.
A true calling.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is it about the job that you enjoy so much, or what's your favourite part of being a celebrant?
Well, I love talking. Sorry, I love public speaking.
You love talking? Really?
No. And one of the best bits is you get to listen to people's stories. Whatever ceremony you are doing, you learn about the people, the family, how people have met, their journeys, if they've got a real passion in life. It's absolutely brilliant. And you have to write really, really quick to capture it all. Yeah. And then I turn that into something wonderful and deliver it as a ceremony.
Oh, fantastic. So
but it's so good to start with a blank piece of paper.
Yeah.
There's nothing
no preconceptions or no expectations. It's what comes from those individuals, isn't it? That's what's really nice.
I am very nosy, so that helps. And of course, the end result is creating a wedding as individual as they are.
Oh, look, I like that. I reckon she's rehearsed that. Don't you reckon that sounds a little bit too polished? That does. We're not that polished on this podcast, so you're going to stick out like a sore thumb.
I'm bringing in a new level.
You are, blimey.
I'm up in the game here.
I know. I'm feeling the pressure now. Right. Okay. Breathe deeply. Next question. So, what are the advantages to having a celebrant at your wedding?
Okay, as I've just said, I will come into you and I will sit there with a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
So the ceremony is completely personal to you as a couple.
Yeah.
The other thing is, as a celebrant, I can conduct a wedding ceremony anywhere. So if you wanted me to go out in your back garden and conduct a ceremony, I can.
Right.
I can do it on the beach. I can do it in a venue.
Okay.
I can even conduct a ceremony on a merry-go-round.
Wow. That's skill, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd be able to because I might feel a bit giddy, but hey, I'm willing to give it a go.
If the money's right, you do it.
Exactly. And also, of course, you're not tied by anything at all. As I said, the words are exactly what you want. So if you want some religious belief in it, or you want your own type of beliefs in it, it can all go in. If you've got, for example, a multi-faith wedding, I could pick elements of both faiths.
That's lovely.
And incorporate them.
Yeah.
Into the ceremony. So it's about the couple. And if they've got children, we bring the children in. We can bring wider members of the family in.
So it's fitting the ceremony to the couple, not vice versa.
Yes.
Which is lovely. Really lovely. So what is the difference between a celebrant and a registrar? Right.
We both conduct ceremonies, but we both have a different part to play.
Okay.
So starting with the registrar has the legal side of weddings.
Right.
So you have to have a registrar to register your marriage legally.
Okay.
And provide the wedding certificate. So somehow you have to be in front of a registrar.
Right.
I can't do the legal bit, but I can do all the bespoke words. A registrar ceremony, whilst you do have choices, there's options A, B and C.
Yeah.
All of the words are pre-written. You can have readings in it, but they have to be checked.
And it's all governed by them, so it's a little bit more structured and, again, fitting into what's pre-written and pre-provided.
Yes, and also they have to perform the ceremony in a licensed venue.
And does it have to be under a roof? Is that right?
If they do an outdoor ceremony, it has to be under a roof.
Yeah. And
if it's raining or inclement weather, they cannot perform it because they have the book that you sign, the actual register, is a legal document.
Right.
And cannot get wet.
I see.
So that's another element to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong, and it happens quite a lot, surprisingly. People are surprised to know I get things wrong. I know.
Don't believe it.
I've written a book and everything, and I still make mistakes. Who would have thought? But some people have the registry bit separately to their wedding day. Is that right?
Yes.
So they can sort of tick all the boxes and sign everything, and then have a celebrant and a wedding.
Yeah.
At a later date.
2 ways of doing it.
Right.
First one is just as you've said.
Yeah.
You can trot along to the registry office, and you have to say specific words, and you have to say the declaratory words. That's easy for me to say.
I was going to say, I'm not saying that.
And contracting words. And there are 3 options on your declaratory words.
Right.
And it's things like, I do solemnly declare I do not know any lawful impediment. Those words.
Right.
Your contracting words, I call upon these persons here present to witness. You have to have 2 witnesses.
Yeah.
And when those words are said and you've signed the register, you are legally married.
Right.
And it doesn't take very long at all. And it's about 49 quid, I think, in Essex to have that ceremony.
Right.
Timings are very limited. I don't know across the county, but certainly in Chelmsford, very limited as to when you can do it.
Right.
Go up to Staffordshire. You can do it any day of the week, any time.
So it's very location dependent.
Different authorities.
Yeah.
So that's when you go to the registry office, or you can have the registrar come out to a venue, as I said, must be licensed.
Yeah.
And they will do the legal bit, and they must do the legal bit in their entirety.
Okay.
And a celebrant could either do their ceremony before the legalities or after, but they can't interject.
Right. I see. That makes sense.
The other thing with a registrar is you will go in and book. You will not meet your registrar until the day, because they do hundreds of weddings.
Yeah.
And they are
You have a very brief meeting before the actual ceremony. Yeah.
Whereas us as celebrants, we'll come and meet you, we'll come and rehearse with you, and then you know who's turning up on the date unless something goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But you build a rapport with us.
Yeah.
Which I think is helpful. And that also, I think it helps you with your choice. Because if you meet a celebrant and you don't build a rapport at the first meeting, my advice is don't use them.
Yeah.
Find someone else, because I think it's your special day. Really important to have somebody who fits.
I think that's so important with any supplier that's going to be there on the day. So photographer or wedding planner or whatever it is. There's some, who might provide a product and they send it off or deliver it to the venue and that's fine. But I think more than anything, if they're going to be there on the day, you have to get on with them, don't you? That's really, really important.
Yeah, because we share their day, don't we?
Exactly, yeah.
We share their important day.
Yeah.
So it's really, really vital that we all get on.
That we get on them and that we get them and we get where they're coming from and that we understand, even if our story isn't the same as their story. Yeah. It resonates with us in some way, and I can convey it in photos, and you can convey it in words, and that's our job, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. I went to a conference last week, and there was a wedding planner talking, and she said, when you're doing a wedding, you are doing your particular thing on your own. However, you are part of a big team. Yeah. And that really resonated with me, because we are a big team, aren't we?
We are. It's so true. It's so nice to. Doing this podcast, I get to, most of the people I know and meet before and I work with before, but it is about all that coming together and realising that a wedding is comprised of so many different elements and skill sets. Yeah. And I think one of the worst traits in a supplier is somebody who values their own skill set or their own role above that of other people. Yeah. That's where problems arise. Yeah. Typically it's a pushy photographer, but it could be anyone, but it's having that respect for fellow suppliers that you need to look out for, definitely.
Yeah. And we need to work together, don't we, to make the day really good.
To smooth sailing and, exactly. Brilliant. What about traditions in terms of the ceremony? So you said they legally have to, have a registrar say certain things for it to be a legal wedding. Yeah. What else is required in terms of a tradition or?
Right. Nothing.
Nothing at all?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing.
I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I think so. There are a lot of myths around the legal process.
Yeah.
And around the wedding ceremony process. But apart from the words, the register, the 2 witnesses, nothing is essential.
Right.
From there on in, you just choose what you want to do.
Fantastic.
Because then basically what we're doing is we're coming into what I would call a ritual.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, very true. That's very true.
So you just pick what you want.
Yeah. So the world is your oyster.
Exactly.
Really. You really can be an individual and go with anything. But I think people do get caught up and we must do this and we must do that. And
I think also there are a lot of traditions, and I think in this country we do love our traditions, don't we?
Yeah, and I'm not anti tradition at all. No. And I said in the book, it's not that, you can't follow all those traditions, but make sure you're following them for the right reasons, because you want to, or because they resonate with you, not because somebody else makes you feel you have to. And that could be a parent, that could be a venue, it could be a number of people. But it's, separating the legality from the traditions is really key, isn't it?
And a lot of people do want tradition in their wedding, but they want something slightly different. Now, when I got married, our best man was my husband's 9-year-old daughter.
Okay.
Now, that was a bit tricky for organising the strippers for the stag night, but was absolutely brilliant. And she did a speech that she wrote.
Oh, fantastic.
Absolutely superb.
See, those are the stories I love. I love anything like that, where they've just been true to them and gone with what they wanted, and it's worked. And
just something a little bit different. At another wedding I've done, it was completely traditional. All the ceremony was as you would expect, but it was personalised to the couple. But the location was a natural woodland.
Oh, wow, lovely.
Which was really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
So you can have tradition, but something just slightly different.
Yeah. It's not an all or nothing. I think that's a really, really good point to make, actually, that people think, wedding individual, we've got to wear something extreme, or, it's all about having, I don't know, bright red hair or loads of tattoos, which if that's you, brilliant.
Do it.
But it could be just a little tweak. I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do this. I think with same-sex weddings, it's interesting because a lot of the traditions are gender orientated.
Yes.
So they don't always apply. So I think sometimes at a same-sex wedding, there's the temptation to go totally off-piste and do your own thing, which I've seen, which is great. But also I get the argument of, why shouldn't we follow those traditions that other people do just because we're same sex?
Yeah.
So it is whatever you want to do, really.
Yes, it is.
And I think most people sort of meet somewhere in the middle. So for me, there's certain things I wouldn't do. I wouldn't have a parent walk me down the aisle.
No.
Because I think that's typically something that happens to the bride or the female.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with flipping that and saying, well, I'm a guy and I want to be given away by my dad or my mum. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I'd be like, no, let's get rid of anything that's traditionally associated with a certain gender.
Yeah.
Because that would just irk me. Because if somebody says to me, who's a man and who's a woman, they're cruising for bruising because it's the one question I absolutely hate.
Yeah, that's awful, isn't it? That makes me cringe, actually.
So, with regards to wedding, that's something for me traditionally. I would get rid of those sort of gender-based traditions. But you don't have to. You can put your own spin on it and do what you want.
Yeah, you can do exactly what you want. There is a video that I saw during my wedding training, and it's a bride and groom, but they all come down the aisle dancing. So you get the grooms, it's American, so there's hundreds of them, but the groomsmen all come down first.
Right.
Then the bridesmaids come down, and then the bride and her dad come down.
Oh, wow, nice.
And it is absolutely amazing.
That sounds
that's
brilliant.
A real different spin.
Yeah.
The rest of it, it's in a church.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's actually an American church. The rest of it, complete traditional. But where they come down the aisle...
That's what they wanted.
And it's really groovy music. It's not dirty at all. It's just fantastic. One of the best things I've seen.
Oh, brilliant.
So there is little things that you can do like that.
Yeah.
Or you can go all out and do, like you said, off-piste.
Yeah.
It matters not. Whatever you want, I'm happy to do.
Brilliant. And yeah, that's the advantage of a celebrant, because I would imagine they come without those rigid ideas that they're going to put onto you, or that they obviously, a registrar is, legally has to do that.
Yes.
But a celebrant is probably got a bit more of an open mind, I would like to say, or is able to have an open mind, not necessarily that somebody else wouldn't have, but you've got more scope to do that, haven't you, really?
Yeah. What I would do when I first meet a couple is, as I talk to them, I'd say, right, what's your vision for your wedding?
Yeah.
And then I'd think, right, what fits into this? And I might suggest a couple of things that would fit into the ceremony that they can consider or not.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds perfect.
Yeah. And then they just make their choice. They can have a look, see what they want, and make their choices.
Yeah, it is empowering people to have a choice, isn't it? An informed choice. It's making them aware of what is possible. Yeah,
because I would say most people in the UK don't know what different wedding ceremonies they can have. And there's ceremonies from all around the world. I mean, there's hundreds that I probably don't even know anything about.
Yeah.
I've seen some, but there's probably different things every day. And actually, if you want to, why not create your own?
Yeah, make your own traditions.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you know a lot about traditions.
I do.
Standard ones and not so standard ones. So maybe we can go into that a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Right, I'm going to ask you a question, Ross, because I know you love this.
I know this is going to be something that makes me look less than intelligent.
No, this is easy, because this is not a quiz question.
Okay, hands on buzzers. No.
Remember last time you went to a wedding?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
What was a ritual performed and what was it?
Putting on the rings?
Yeah, exchange of rings.
Yes.
Right, okay. Do you want to know where that comes from?
Yes.
That is probably the most common ritual in the UK.
I don't even think of it as a ritual, but I suppose that is a ritual, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually a ritual. People don't, because that's what we do, don't we?
But you don't legally have to have a ring. No. You don't have to wear a ring, do you?
A friend of mine has a tap washer because her husband is a plumber. And they got married abroad and didn't take rings.
Oh, wow.
So she has a tap washer and she's just kept it.
Really?
Yeah, that's her ring. It was blessed and everything, but yeah, that's what she's got. So hey.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, exchanging of rings originates in ancient Egypt in 3000 BC. So it's one of the oldest traditions ever, which is why it stood the test of time.
Oh my goodness.
And it's worldwide, because if you think you can go to virtually any country in the world
and
then have a wedding ring on somewhere, left hand, right hand, different fingers, but they will have a ring.
Yeah.
And it's about the symbol for eternity, which is a never-ending circle.
Yeah.
Now, originally, they were made from reed or hemp and didn't last. So in this day and age, that's probably quite handy.
That's cynical, isn't it? Oh, blimey. No, your wedding, if you're listening to this and you're getting married, it's going to last. Don't worry. Your love will last for eternity, just like your wedding ring. Even if it's a tap washer.
The Romans came along and, of course, did it better.
Oh, yeah,
They started to use gold. And the reason we use our third finger or ring finger, doesn't matter which hand, it is believed there is a vein within that finger which connects straight to the heart. And it's called the Vena Amoris, or the vein of love.
Oh.
How cool is that?
Yeah. I reckon you've rehearsed that. I reckon you've done a lot of rehearsal with this podcast. You must be the most well-practiced guest I've had so far. Yeah, all these big fancy words, Well, I suppose as a celebrant, you need to be able to pronounce all these fancy
I was going to say, my job is writing ceremonies. So
you should. I was going to say, you have to come know what you're going to say. I've made up words on this podcast. The things I've said when I've listened back, I'm like, Ross, that's not even a word. I thought, leave it in.
It may become a word in the future.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
Okay. Other traditions?
Going to move on now. Okay. Right. Renewal of vows. Thinking about renewal of vows. This is one I love for renewal of vows. Okay. And it's called hand fasting. You ever heard of hand fasting?
I have heard of it. Don't quite know what. I think I've seen it, but not in enough detail to know what's taking place.
Right. Okay. It's pretty. It's very pretty. And what you do is you get a number of different coloured ribbons.
Right.
And you hang them across the arms of the couple.
Right.
And again, this is one that's not gender-based at all.
Okay.
And then you wrap them and tie them. And you can have 1, 2 or 3 knots, depending upon your belief system. The pagans, I believe, have 3 knots.
Right.
One for the past life, one for the present and one for the future. which I really quite like.
Yeah, that's nice.
You can have meanings against the ribbons, so the colours mean something to the couple.
Oh, I see.
And as you put the ribbons over, you talk about what that colour means.
Okay.
Then when it's tied, they slip their hands out and you put it in a little keepsake box.
Oh.
So they're tied together forever.
That's lovely. And where does that come from?
That comes from pagan times. So it's another English one, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it was actually, it's also the roots of engagement, because handfasting was a trial marriage.
Oh.
What they would do is they would tie the couple together, and then they would actually live together as a married couple for a year and a day.
Oh.
And on the day, they would say whether they wanted to stay together. If they did...
It's like a really slow version of first dates, isn't it?
Like
do you want to see each other again? Maybe not.
Yeah. If they want to stay together, they can have another ceremony, or they can just split up.
Oh.
Now, I think that's bearing in mind how old that is, I think
that's quite
really good idea.
Yeah, for an old tradition, that's quite forward thinking, actually.
I really like that one.
Yeah.
And I did actually say to my husband, we could do that for a renewal of vows. And he said, I would, but I don't want to be tied to you.
Yeah, well, I know your husband. That doesn't surprise me in the least, to be fair. So I think we'll move on swiftly.
Right, okay. Now we're going to do, does Ross know this?
Oh, look, here we go.
Dun, dun. Right, we're jetting off to Africa now.
Right.
And a ceremony called jumping the broom. Do you know about this one, Ross?
No, I don't know about this one.
Right. This signifies the entrance of the couple into a new life and creating a new family.
Okay.
Now, what would happen is the couple would be standing.
Yeah.
And the two mothers-in-law would stand either side of the couple.
Right.
And they would have a broom and they would sweep away the old life in front of the couple.
Oh, I see.
When that's swept away, they lay the broom down on the floor and the couple then jump over it.
Ah, so they literally jump the broom.
They literally do jump the broom.
Into their new life, so
yeah.
to speak.
So it's single life behind the broom, married life in front of the broom.
All right.
Now, this is a bit of a sad thing as well, because in the American Deep South, during the slave trade, unfortunately, slaves weren't allowed to get married because, as we know, they were very oppressed. So what they did, most slaves had come from Africa.
Yeah.
They adopted this as their marriage ceremony.
Oh, wow,
Wasn't
really?
legal. Yeah. They would use it as their marriage ceremony because they wanted something and they couldn't do what they wanted to do. So they would do that.
Oh, wow.
So that none of the slave owners would know what was happening.
What was happening?
Yeah. So it was actually very clever, but a bit sad.
Yeah. Is it still done in Africa then?
Yeah, it is. It's also still done in the Caribbean.
Right.
There are different versions of it in different countries. The straw of the broom is supposed to represent the family. The handle represents the Almighty. And because you put ribbons around it, so it does look pretty.
Okay.
That's what ties the couple together.
Oh.
So,
nice.
You can do it in the UK. Generally speaking, if you go to a wedding fair and you see a celebrant, they'll have a broom.
Oh, really?
They will have a decorated broom, yeah.
As a little...
Yeah.
That put me off. I'm not a fan of housework. So having a broom on my wedding day, I thought, oh, crikey, what am I signing up to here? But no, I do like that. It is it's a poignant one, but...
Yeah, I do like the history of that one.
Yeah.
It's sort of bittersweet, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. On a positive, I suppose it's a creative way of still having your marriage in a time when you couldn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do like almost the defiance of it, or the power of doing it.
Yeah, I think it's really brilliant.
Yeah.
That to adapt that's one of their traditions. And I would imagine that's how it came around to the West.
Yeah.
Because obviously Celebrant is much bigger in the States than it is in the UK. And most of what we do comes from there.
Yeah, that's true.
Australia's the same. Very, very big in Australia. And I would imagine that's how it came across through the slave trade. So it's a positive sort of.
Yeah, I know what you
mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. Are you going to ask me if I know something else?
No, I'm going to move on to Poland.
Right.
Because I have Polish ancestry.
Oh, okay.
So I think my nan was Polish. So I think I should respect that ancestry and talk about something Polish. Plus, I think this one is quite fun.
Right.
So what do you know about Poland then, Ross?
Oh, What do I know about Poland? I don't know a lot about Poland. That's awful, isn't it?
I'm going to teach you something then.
Okay,
I'm going to teach you a ceremony.
Okay.
Right, okay. During a Polish wedding ceremony,
right,
the couple are presented with bread,
right,
which they eat, to symbolise a lack of hunger.
Right, brilliant.
They then, and this is a little tray, so you can imagine a little tray set up. So you've got your bread, then you've got some salt, and that is for healing and cleansing and driving away evil spirits.
Right.
So again, I don't know how old this is, but from that sort of thing, I would imagine this is quite traditional and goes way,
the evil
way
spirit
back.
Type of thing.
Way back.
Yeah.
So once they've had the bread and the salt, they then have their first toast, and there are 2 glasses on this tray, 2 small, what we would now call shot glasses.
Okay.
One's got water in, and one has vodka in.
Right.
And the couple do not know which is which, because the person who's doing the ceremony will put the water and the vodka in. And obviously it'd have to be vodka because it's Polish.
Yeah, okay.
Whichever couple person has the vodka will be the dominant partner in the relationship.
Oh my goodness.
But this is the best bit.
Okay.
They are standing there, they drink, congregation is behind them, they then throw the glass over their shoulder. So the congregation needs to duck.
Okay.
Because the glass is coming at you.
Good grief.
And if the glass breaks, it's a sign of good luck.
Okay.
And that's a bit like a Jewish thing where they break a glass under a cloth.
They do. I did a ceremony in London.
Did you?
In August where they did that, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little bit like that, but not quite.
Oh, that's
so I quite like that one because I think that's quite good fun.
That is really good fun. So traditions are, well, just really diverse, aren't they, really?
Yeah.
And really sort of age-old traditions.
Yeah. And I like these ones with the real history that actually means something. I mean, it's quite common nowadays. People do a sand ceremony and you'll have a glass vase thing and you'll have, not a vase thing, a vase. And they'll have, both of the couple will have a different colour sand.
Right.
So they take turns in pouring it in and the sand mixes.
Oh, I see. That's nice.
You put a stopper on it and then you keep that forever. So that's your union. It's a bit like having your ribbons in the box.
It's all symbolic, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Wow.
But I do like the historical side of stuff. And you've learnt something now. So next time I test you...
She will test me. We'll meet at networking and she'll ask me in front of loads of people. I know this woman well. But no, that's been really, really interesting. Just knowing, the difference between what you do and what a registrar does and, traditions and basically you can adhere to all of them or none of them.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
must
main
say,
message.
For me, the church has a really important part because if you have a religious belief...
Yeah.
And you want to reflect that in your wedding ceremony, and I know lots of people who do, that's really important because, as we know, it's about what you want.
Yeah.
It's about your wedding.
Yeah.
So I don't want to dismiss or forget the role the church.
No, that's a really good point to make because, I still do very traditional weddings and, it, as I said before, being individual doesn't mean going right off at a tangent for the sake of it. It's just being true to you. So I think that's a really, really valid point to make. Actually, thank you. Yeah. Brilliant. Let's do a little recap just to check that we've done what we've promised we're gonna do. So we have distinguished the legal requirements and the norms and traditions. So just recap what the only legal requirement of a wedding is.
Right. You have to go to a registrar. You have to say your declaratory words.
Yes, you said it right again. She's just showing off now.
2 witnesses, and you have to sign the register and get your wedding certificate. So that's the bare minimum that you have to do legally. And to book a registrar slot, you have to give 28 days notice and you have to have lived in the location for 7 days.
7 days, is that all?
7 days, yeah, it's not, is it?
Not long at
all.
all.
So that's all. Off to Scotland.
So that's all you need to do. There is anything else. No. Even the rings, it's just...
Don't have rings.
That's all you've got to do. Brilliant. That's a really... I think that's probably cleared up a lot for people. And you can do that alongside a celebrant or you can do it on a different day, and then have a celebrant
Yes.
preside over a ceremony at a larger wedding if you want. And you only have two witnesses.
Two witnesses, that's all.
Brilliant. So that's cleared that up. And we sort of said how you as a celebrant differ from a registrar. You need a registrar for the legal requirement, but you're a lot freer in what you can say and what you can deliver. In fact, it's totally open. You can say pretty much
and
anything,
where we can deliver it.
Where you can deliver it, right.
Locations as well.
Yeah.
And if you want a themed wedding, you want us to dress up within reason, we'll dress up.
We'll dress up. Might hold you to that. We're doing a selfie at the end, so, you know, you should... No, you're quite safe here. You're all right. Don't worry. And we've talked about where wedding traditions stem from and hopefully introduced you to some different ones. And they might not resonate with you, or you might think, we want to incorporate that, or it might inspire you to look up other traditions and see what else. You know, a lot of people are into history itself or their ancestry and might want to replicate something that, you know, their ancestors would have done, you know, generations ago.
Something else, a lot of people nowadays have a guest book, don't they, in
Yeah.
their reception, and you put nice little notes to the bride and groom. Well, instead of that, why not have some kind of a wooden little tree thing and hang wishes,
That's
like
really
little
nice.
heart-shaped card, and hang wishes on there. So rather than a guest book, have a wishing tree, your wishes for the couple's future.
That's really nice. That's lovely.
So there's it's not only a ceremony, it's other parts of your wedding.
That's important.
You can be really creative.
I think so. I've said that before, and sometimes it's prioritising. So some things are really important, some not so much. So you might spend a lot of time on a creative ceremony, but you're not too worried what the food's like, or vice versa. So it is. Obviously I started the first episode was pinpointing your priorities, but it does come down to knowing that and spending time getting to know what you want really, with an open mind. You know, don't be too stuck in your ways that you're closed off to things. But I think once you know what you want, when you do meet someone like Karen and they come and chat to you and she's saying what's important, you'll have an answer and you'll know, and you'll build that sort of relationship with your suppliers a lot quicker if you're a little bit more prepared. And don't be afraid to say you want something different. No, I think some people are.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of what inspired the book is not the people that are so confident and totally go out and do it anyway. They don't need that resource. They probably don't need the podcast so much. But people who are a bit nervous or don't know what to do, it's those people that need that reassurance. So if you're listening and you kind of think you might want something a bit different, go for it. Yeah. Go for it. You only have to answer to yourselves as a couple. Yeah. You know, you don't have to cause a major rift in the family and deliberately upset people. But remember, it's your day, I think, is really key, isn't it? And there are lots of wonderful people that can help you make it your day. That's what we're all here for at the end of the day. Yeah. Brilliant. So Karen is married to a lovely man called Alan. Aren't you? Happily married?
Oh, of course, yes.
Alan will be listening.
I'm ecstatic.
So a little tip for people getting married. One thing you wish you'd known before you'd gotten married, or one little piece of advice. It doesn't have to be anything to do with what we talked about today that you can give to our couples just to end
me
on.
Personally?
You personally, go for it.
I wish someone had told me that men cannot lift the lid on the laundry basket. I really do. No, on a more serious note, our wedding day was wonderful, and we did have a registrar who was very good.
Yeah. We're not slating registrars at all.
We're
not saying they don't have a place or you can't have one. Yeah. Yeah.
There's not a lot I would change, but I said earlier about our best man was Alan's 9-year-old daughter. Yeah. And the speeches, his speech and her speech, were absolutely awesome. And what he did in his speech, and he's really clever because he used to be a trainer, so he goes into trainer mode. Okay. And he incorporated so many people who were our wedding guests, who were part of our life at the time, into that speech. Now, if we could have had that in our ceremony,
that would have
how awesome would that have been?
Yeah.
That would have been so lovely. And interesting because we've been married just over 10 years now. So people that were at our wedding have sadly passed on. Yeah. So we would have that history piece in the ceremony, and I don't have that. So that would be lovely.
Your tip, that would be, and you can include people in all elements. I think that's sort of building on what you said, you don't just have to wait till the speeches to thank people.
No.
You know, people can get involved in the planning or the ceremony. You can mention people or different, you know, again, with traditions, you always think, well, you know, guests can do a reading or, you know, they can, you know, give a gift, and there's different ways to incorporate the people you love, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So much you can do.
Brilliant. And hopefully this podcast is helping you to expand your mind and realise how many options you do have, which is wonderful. So brilliant. Thanks for coming along today, Karen.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been really good fun.
Oh, good. Well, we'll have to invite you back for Series 2, which is looking more and more likely that it's going to be happening. So
excellent.
Brilliant. But
is that going to be the phoning?
That's going to be the yeah, you're going to come back for the live phoning.
See, I'm obsessed now.
I know. Dog with a bone now. Have to do it. Tell everyone how they can get hold of you, view your website, Facebook, all that kind of thing.
We have a website. It's www.chelmsfordcelebrants.co.uk.
Yeah.
And on there, there's a link to our email, which is info@phillipscelebrants.co.uk. Wedding Facebook page is under construction at the moment. Is that the word? Under construction?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
Funeral one's up there, but the wedding one, because we're doing some marketing stuff at the moment, so we're looking at different things on Instagram as well and Twitter.
And that's Phillips Celebrants on
Phillips
there.
Celebrants.
And how do you spell Phillips, just so everyone knows?
It's PHILLIPS.
Excellent. And your website is Chelmsford Celebrants, but you don't just do Chelmsford, do you?
No, we do the world.
That's a big claim.
That's what I'm looking for.
Good.
I'm looking for weddings abroad.
Oh, okay.
Love to do some weddings abroad.
Okay, brilliant.
Went to Sicily myself earlier this year, and some of the weddings I saw out there were just beautiful.
Right.
Such a lovely setting. So, yeah, if you want a wedding abroad, I would love to help you with that.
And I have to say, my book is more well-travelled than I am, because Karen and Alan take my book on holiday and photograph it in all sorts of weird and wonderful places. So they're doing a bit of worldwide promotion for me. So I do appreciate that. And we'll do a blog post on that at some point.
No problem.
The many travels of the book.
Of the book.
Yeah.
We'll just keep going.
Yeah, keep going. It's brilliant.
Next stop will be Lanzarote.
Oh, lovely. I did ask if they wanted to take the author instead of the actual book, but they turned me down. So
we like the book.
We like the book, yeah. Okay, as ever, I've been Ross Wilshire, and you can view more of my work on www.rosswilshirephotography.co.uk. The book, How to Have a Wedding as Individual as You Are, is available on Amazon UK, Barnes & Noble and Waterstones online. And it's in the Waterstones in Chelmsford High Street as well, if you're a local listener. Oh, I like that. I need an audience of wooers at certain points, don't I?
Yeah, you definitely need some woo-woo. Definitely.
And you can email me info@rosswilshirephotography.co.uk if you want to talk about weddings, wedding photography, the book or the podcast. Get in touch. I'm always happy to hear from you. And social media, just look for Ross Wilshire Photography or @rWilshirePhoto on Twitter. But thanks again, Karen, for coming. We'll be back very soon to help you have weddings individuals you are. But until then, happy wedding planning, everybody.
Yay. Thank you.
Take care.